I sat across from my brother Jackson at his dining room table, watching him laugh at something his wife Amelia said. Sunday dinners at their place had become our tradition since we were kids. We had always been close, sharing everything from toys to secrets. I never imagined that someone I barely knew would tell a lie so devastating it would tear us apart forever. A single false accusation during a stupid game would cost me my reputation, my freedom, and the brother I thought would always have my back. Let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe before I tell you how my life was destroyed by a false accusation. I am Bennett, 32 years old, and a software engineer at a tech company in Seattle. My brother Jackson is 3 years older than me, and growing up we were inseparable. Our parents worked long hours at their small business, so Jackson stepped up as my protector, mentor, and best friend. We shared a bedroom until I was 16, stayed up late talking about our dreams, and promised to always be there for each other. Even as adults living in the same city, we made time to see each other at least once a week. 2 years ago, Jackson married Amelia after dating for about 18 months. I was his best man, proudly standing beside him as he committed to the woman who clearly made him happy. Amelia came from a good family, had a successful career as a marketing executive, and most importantly, she treated my brother with respect and love. I welcomed her into our family with open arms, grateful that my brother had found someone special. The first year of their marriage went smoothly. I was invited to dinner parties, holiday gatherings, and casual hangouts at their new home. Jackson and I maintained our close relationship, though naturally we spent less one-on-one time together than before. I was completely fine with that adjustment, understanding that marriage changes priorities. Amelia and I developed a friendly relationship built on mutual respect and our shared affection for Jackson. Everything changed when Amelia's younger sister Tiffany moved to Seattle about 6 months ago. After graduating from college in California, she decided to relocate closer to her sister while figuring out her career path. Jackson and Amelia offered their guest room until she found her footing in the city. At 24, Tiffany struck me as somewhat immature compared to her older sister. She seemed constantly glued to her phone, documenting every moment on social media and sharing inappropriate details about her personal life with anyone who would listen. During family gatherings, I noticed how Tiffany would dominate conversations with dramatic stories about her dating life or complaints about job hunting. While everyone else politely indulged her, I found myself struggling to connect with her self-centered personality. Still, I made an effort to be friendly for Jackson and Amelia's sake, never imagining that this peripheral person in my life would become the catalyst for its destruction. Last month, I received a significant promotion at work after 3 years of putting in extra hours and delivering exceptional results on challenging projects. My new position came with a substantial pay increase, additional responsibilities, and recognition I had worked hard to earn. The day I got the news, Jackson was the first person I called. He congratulated me enthusiastically and immediately insisted on hosting a celebration dinner that weekend. I arrived at their home that Saturday evening, looking forward to sharing my success with the people I cared about. Jackson greeted me with a bear hug and ushered me inside, where Amelia had prepared an impressive meal. The dining room table was set beautifully, and a bottle of expensive champagne was chilling in an ice bucket. I felt valued and loved, completely unaware that within 24 hours, my entire world would crumble around me. When I stepped into the living room, I noticed Tiffany sitting on the couch with another young woman I had never met before. Jackson introduced her as Kayla, Tiffany's friend, visiting from Los Angeles for the weekend. Both women were dressed for a night out rather than a family dinner, wearing revealing clothes and heavy makeup. They looked me up and down in a way that made me instantly uncomfortable, but I smiled politely and took a seat across from them. Throughout dinner, I caught Tiffany and Kayla exchanging glances and whispering to each other whenever I spoke about my job or my plans for the future. Occasionally, they would ask oddly personal questions about my dating life or make suggestive comments that felt inappropriate for the setting. I tried to redirect the conversation to more neutral topics, but they persisted in a way that felt increasingly awkward. After we finished eating, Jackson opened the champagne and proposed a toast to my professional achievement. We moved to the living room with our drinks, and the conversation initially flowed naturally between the 5 of us. As the evening progressed, however, I noticed Tiffany refilling her glass repeatedly and becoming more boisterous. Kayla matched her pace, and soon both women were laughing too loudly at comments that were not particularly funny. Around 10:30 at night, Amelia mentioned that she had an early morning the next day and needed to get some sleep. Jackson, always considerate of his wife, decided to turn in as well. Before heading upstairs, my brother gave me another congratulatory hug and thanked me for coming. I started gathering my things, planning to call a rideshare since I had been drinking, when Tiffany suddenly suggested that I stay longer. "I have another bottle of wine I have been saving for a special occasion," she announced, already heading to the kitchen to retrieve it. "You cannot leave yet, Bennett. The night is still young and we should continue celebrating your big promotion." Feeling obligated to be polite to my sister-in-law's sister, I reluctantly agreed to stay for one more drink. This decision would become the first in a series of choices I would come to regret deeply. As soon as Jackson and Amelia disappeared upstairs, the atmosphere in the living room shifted dramatically. Tiffany and Kayla moved closer to me on the couch, invading my personal space in a way that made me increasingly uneasy. After pouring generous glasses of wine for each of us, Tiffany suggested playing Truth or Dare. I laughed, thinking she was joking. "Truth or Dare? Are we in middle school?" I asked, hoping to deflect with humor. But Kayla joined in, insisting it would be fun. Against my better judgment, and wanting to avoid appearing rude, I agreed to play for a few minutes before heading home. The first few rounds seemed harmless enough. Tiffany admitted to shoplifting makeup in college when she chose Truth. Kayla did a silly dance around the coffee table for her dare. When my turn came, I selected Truth and answered an innocuous question about my first kiss. But with each round, their questions and dares became increasingly personal and inappropriate. "Tiffany, Truth or Dare?" Kayla asked with a mischievous smile that made me uncomfortable. "Dare," Tiffany responded without hesitation. "I dare you to sit on Bennett's lap for the next 3 rounds. Kayla giggled. I immediately stood up, making it clear that I was not interested in participating in that type of game. "Look, I think I should head home. Thank you for the wine, but I am going to call my ride now." Tiffany pouted dramatically. "Do not be such a killjoy, Bennett. We are just having fun. No one is going to know. I am sorry, but I am not comfortable with where this game is heading," I stated firmly. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair and pulled out my phone to request a car. As I waited for my ride to arrive, Tiffany and Kayla whispered to each other occasionally, glancing in my direction with expressions I could not quite read. The tension in the room was palpable, and I found myself wishing I had left with Jackson and Amelia earlier. When my phone pinged to indicate my car had arrived, I said a quick goodbye to both women. Tiffany's demeanor had changed completely. Instead of the flirtatious behavior she had displayed earlier, she now seemed cold and irritated. Whatever she muttered as I headed toward the door. "Thanks for ruining our fun." Those were the last words she spoke to me before destroying my life. The next morning, I woke up to 6 missed calls from Jackson. Still groggy from sleep, I called him back immediately, concerned that something might be wrong. The moment he answered, I knew something terrible had happened. His voice was cold and trembling with rage, a tone I had never heard him use with me before. "What did you do last night?" he demanded without any greeting. Confused by his question and hostility, I explained that I had stayed for a drink after he and Amelia went to bed, then called a car and went home. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Tiffany says you sexually assaulted her after we went to sleep," Jackson finally said, his voice breaking. "She says you tried to force yourself on her when Kayla went to the bathroom. How could you, Bennett? In my house. To my wife's sister." The accusation hit me like a physical blow. I literally sat down on my kitchen floor, unable to process what I was hearing. My mind raced to make sense of his words while simultaneously rejecting them as impossible. For several seconds, I could not speak. "Jackson, that is absolutely not true," I finally managed to say. "Nothing like that happened. We played a stupid game of Truth or Dare that got uncomfortable, so I left. I never touched her. I would never do something like that." Kayla confirms Tiffany's story. My brother shot back. "She says Tiffany was crying when she came out of the bathroom. Why would they both lie about this?" "I do not know why they would lie, but I am telling you nothing happened. I insisted, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Jackson, you know me. I am your brother. You have known me my entire life. How can you possibly think I would do something like this?" The conversation quickly deteriorated from there. Jackson refused to believe my denial, cutting me off each time I tried to explain what really happened. His words became increasingly hostile, filled with disgust and anger. He told me I was dead to him, that I should never contact him or any member of his family again. Before hanging up, he said something that would echo in my mind for months to come. "You are no longer my brother. If you come near my family again, I will kill you myself." The line went dead, and I sat on my kitchen floor in shock, unable to comprehend how my life had imploded so suddenly. Over the next several days, I made countless attempts to reach Jackson. I called, texted, and even drove to his house, only to find he had blocked my number and refused to open the door. I tried contacting Amelia, hoping she might listen to reason, but she too had cut all communication with me. 4 days after that devastating phone call, I returned home from work to find 2 police officers waiting at my apartment. They informed me that a complaint had been filed against me for sexual assault, and they had a warrant for my arrest. In a daze of disbelief, I was handcuffed and led to a police car in full view of my neighbors. The following hours remain a blur of humiliation and fear. I was fingerprinted, photographed, and placed in a holding cell overnight until my bail hearing the next morning. My parents, who lived 3 hours away, arrived just in time to post bail, their faces etched with confusion and worry. Though they did not openly accuse me, I could see the uncertainty in their eyes. The possibility that their son could have done something so horrible had planted a seed of doubt even in them. My employer was legally obligated to put me on administrative leave once they learned of the charges against me. Colleagues I had considered friends suddenly stopped returning my calls. Social invitations dried up. Within a week of Tiffany's accusation, I had become a pariah, presumed guilty by nearly everyone in my life before I had even had my day in court. With my life savings, I hired the best defense attorney I could afford, a woman named Diane Powell, who specialized in sexual assault cases. From our first meeting, she was direct about the challenges we faced. "False accusation cases are difficult to prove," she told me bluntly. "Without witnesses or evidence, it often comes down to credibility. We need to focus on gathering whatever evidence supports your version of events." The investigation process was grueling. I provided detailed accounts of the evening multiple times, each recollection scrutinized for inconsistencies. Diane advised me to avoid all contact with Tiffany Kayla Jackson or Amelia, which only deepened my isolation. As the preliminary hearing approached, my anxiety became nearly unbearable. I lost weight, developed insomnia, and found myself jumping at unexpected sounds. The most devastating aspect was Jackson's public support of Tiffany. My own brother not only believed her lie, but actively contributed to destroying my reputation. He gave a statement to the police describing me as recently troubled and unpredictable, suggesting that my promotion had perhaps triggered some kind of psychological break. His betrayal cut deeper than even the false accusation itself. Thanksgiving arrived while my case was still pending. For the first time in my life, I spent the holiday alone, unable to face my extended family, with the cloud of accusation hanging over me. Christmas followed with the same isolation. I sat in my apartment, surrounded by memories of happier times, wondering if I would ever experience joy again. At my lowest point, I considered ending my life. The weight of being falsely accused of such a heinous act, combined with the abandonment by those I loved most, seemed too much to bear. What stopped me was finding a therapist who, after several sessions, told me she believed in my innocence. Dr. Marta Jensen became my lifeline, teaching me coping mechanisms for the overwhelming anxiety and providing a safe space to process my grief and anger. It was during a routine evidence review that my attorney discovered something crucial. The prosecutor had provided access to Tiffany's phone records as part of the discovery process. While examining the text messages between Tiffany and Kayla, Diane found an exchange from the night before the dinner that changed everything. "Got any good dares for tomorrow?" Tiffany had texted. Kayla's response was chilling. "Dare you to completely ruin someone's life. Bonus points if it's a family member. Double bonus if you get them arrested." Further messages revealed their plan to target me specifically, with Tiffany mentioning that she found me condescending and wanted to take me down a notch. The realization that my life had been destroyed as part of a sick game hit me with crushing force. These women had deliberately fabricated a sexual assault claim for entertainment, giving no thought to the devastating consequences their lie would have on an innocent person. With this new evidence, Diane immediately filed a motion with the court. She also demanded access to Kayla's phone, where we discovered that Kayla had secretly recorded Tiffany accepting the dare. The video did not show me at all, but captured Tiffany saying, "I know exactly who to target." Bennett thinks he is so perfect with his fancy promotion. Let us see how he likes having his life turned upside down. When confronted with this evidence, Tiffany's facade crumbled. She confessed to fabricating the accusation, admitting that nothing inappropriate had occurred that night. The charges against me were dropped immediately, and the district attorney issued a public apology for the wrongful prosecution. I filed a civil lawsuit against both Tiffany and Kayla for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and malicious prosecution. The local news covered the story extensively, focusing on the dangers of false accusations and the irreparable harm they cause. While the public vindication helped clear my name professionally, the emotional damage was not so easily repaired. My company welcomed me back with appropriate sensitivity, and many colleagues expressed their regret for doubting me. I gradually resumed my normal work routine, though nothing felt truly normal anymore. I had changed, fundamentally becoming more guarded and less trusting of others. Then, 6 weeks after my exoneration, Jackson reached out. He left a voicemail asking if we could meet to talk. His voice sounded broken, filled with remorse and shame. I listened to the message multiple times, a storm of conflicting emotions raging within me. Part of me desperately wanted to reconnect with my brother, to heal the rift that had torn my family apart. But a stronger part remembered his absolute refusal to believe me, his immediate assumption of my guilt, and his active participation in my public humiliation. After careful consideration and several discussions with Dr. Flast, Jensen, I agreed to meet Jackson at a neutral location, a quiet coffee shop downtown. When I arrived, he looked terrible. He had lost weight, had dark circles under his eyes, and his usual confident posture was replaced by a slumped defeat. "Thank you for coming," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "I do not know where to start. I am so sorry, Bennett. I should have believed you." I sat silently, allowing him to continue without interruption. "Amelia and I have separated," he revealed. "After everything came out about Tiffany, I could not look at her the same way. She kept defending her sister, saying Tiffany must have had reasons for lying. I realized I could not be with someone who would justify that kind of behavior." He went on to explain how he had been living in a small apartment for the past month, attending therapy himself, and struggling to come to terms with his role in my ordeal. "You are my little brother," he said, tears forming in his eyes. "I was supposed to protect you, to have your back no matter what. Instead, I threw you to the wolves without a second thought. I betrayed everything our relationship stood for. I will understand if you cannot forgive me, but I needed you to know how deeply sorry I am." Looking at my brother across the table, I felt nothing but cold anger. The man who had vowed to always protect me had not only failed to do so, but had actively participated in trying to destroy me. His tears and apologies came only after the truth had been publicly revealed, after my innocence had been established beyond doubt. "Blood should mean something, Jackson," I finally said, keeping my voice steady. "All those years growing up, you told me that no matter what happened, we would always have each other's backs. When I needed you most, when one word from you could have made a difference, you chose to believe a person you barely knew over me. You did not just abandon me, you helped destroy me. I cannot forgive that I continued rising from my chair. I do not want you in my life anymore. Do not call me. Do not text me. Do not try to contact me through Mom and Dad. As far as I am concerned, I no longer have a brother." I walked away without looking back, leaving Jackson sobbing at the table. That moment of cutting ties, while painful, was also strangely liberating. I had taken back control of my narrative and established boundaries that would protect me from further harm. In the months that followed, I made significant changes to rebuild my life. I sold my apartment in Seattle, accepting a transfer to my company's Austin office for a fresh start in a new city. The settlement from my lawsuit against Tiffany and Kayla provided financial security that allowed me to buy a comfortable home in a quiet neighborhood and continue my therapy with a new doctor. Through consistent work with my therapist, I gradually processed the trauma of both the false accusation and my brother's betrayal. I learned that healing does not mean forgetting or minimizing the harm done. Instead, it means acknowledging the pain while refusing to let it define your future. I developed strategies for managing anxiety triggers and rebuilding trust with new people in my life. In Austin, I intentionally created a supportive community for myself. I joined a recreational soccer league, volunteered at a local coding academy for underprivileged youth, and connected with colleagues who knew nothing of my past ordeal. These new relationships, built on genuine shared interests rather than family obligation, became a source of strength and joy. Jackson continued his attempts to reconnect. He called my parents regularly, asking about me and begging them to intervene. He sent emails apologizing again and again, each one more desperate than the last. 6 months after I moved, he even flew to Austin, unannounced, hoping to speak with me in person. I refused to see him, having the front desk at my office building turn him away. My parents struggled to understand my decision to maintain no contact with Jackson. They argued that family should forgive each other, that blood ties were too important to sever permanently. During a difficult phone conversation with my mother, I finally found the words to explain my position clearly. "Mom, forgiveness does not mean reconciliation," I told her. "I can forgive Jackson for my own peace of mind, without allowing him back into my life." Some betrayals fundamentally change relationships in ways that cannot be undone. I need you to respect my choice, even if you do not agree with it. 1 year after the false accusation, Jackson sent a letter to my new address. I recognized his handwriting immediately on the sealed envelope. For several days, I left it unopened on my kitchen counter, debating whether to read it or throw it away. In the end, I chose to place it in a drawer unopened. His words, whatever they might be, could not change what had happened or heal the wounds his betrayal had created. My life now bears little resemblance to what it was before Tiffany's lie. I am more cautious, more selective about who I trust, and more aware of how quickly life can change. Yet I am also stronger, more resilient, and more appreciative of genuine connections. I have learned that sometimes walking away is not an act of weakness, but an act of self-preservation. The experience taught me that blood relations do not guarantee loyalty or support. Real family consists of the people who stand by you during your darkest moments, who give you the benefit of the doubt when others rush to judgment. I have found that family among friends who choose to be in my life and demonstrate their trustworthiness through consistent actions. I sometimes wonder if I will ever fully heal from the trauma of that period. The scars remain influencing how I approach relationships and how I view the world. But I no longer carry the crushing weight of anger that once threatened to consume me. I have found peace in setting firm boundaries and prioritizing my own well-being over family expectations or societal pressure to forgive and forget. Have you ever had to cut ties with family for your own mental health? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share to help others who might be going through similar situations. Thank you for listening, and remember that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is necessary.